Hi, my name is Cherokee, and you are watching The Cultural Connection. This video is on racial healing and is titled Habits. So, over the course of years, I've tried to establish new habits. It's not easy. I've noticed that when it comes to cultural change within Black America, it's also not easy. So, let's face it, it's not easy for anyone to make a change to a habit. For Black Americans whose history is slavery in this country, we have literally always needed the approval of white people for our own safety. And I've noticed that today we still search for white approval, and mainly for the same reason, for our own safety. I feel like we're always looking to please them in some way and to appease them. And although we know that there's trauma present and we know that healing is necessary, I don't see a big move toward the inner work that's required and is necessary in order to heal. Now, I might be biased in my opinion, but I do feel that Black people are some of the most loving people on this planet. And I believe everything happens for a reason. And I believe that that's a big reason why the African slave trade even happened, why Black people were brought here to bring that light and that love to this country. But in addition to having love for others, we need to start showing more love for ourselves. I personally feel that Black people are very unified, although I know that there is a stereotype out there that says something different. I'm identify as Black, obviously, and my cultural dealings with my culture has always been one of loving support. And like I said, I might be biased in that opinion, but especially if you look at the churches and how people deal with each other, at least in my world, when it comes to Black people, I find them, especially the women, but both the men and women, but especially the women, just some of the most loving people and supportive people you will ever come across. So that being said, I do feel that it is time for us to show some of that love to ourselves. And that looks like letting go of the need to please white people, letting go of the belief that we could ever do anything, that we could ever reach this state of perfection where they're just going to all of a sudden get this epiphany and like start to love and no more racism. And so, I mean, it's been at this point in 2025, it's been around 406 years. So I think, if they don't feel that way by now, then it's safe to say that's their path. Okay. So our society has changed a tremendous amount. So slavery has long since passed. And for those that choose to stay in that past and to continue that mental arrangement for themselves, for their children, or for their grandchildren, that's their business. But what's interesting is that as a culture, as Black people, we've done that same exact thing in our own way. We have continued to perpetuate turmoil within our culture when it comes to skin color. I'm talking about the light skin, dark skin thing that just never seems to go away. That originated in slavery, specifically to cause division among Black people. So it hurts my heart that today, people are still talking about it and still making it like this thing, to the point where there's a term called light privilege, light skin privilege, or light privilege, like white privilege, but for light skinned Black people. So, I mean, it's painful. This was a concept developed by racist white people from slavery to separate and divide the slaves so that they wouldn't congregate together and gang up on them. Okay? And so just ask yourself, is that something we really want to continue to perpetuate today? Okay? It is now 2025, and there is not a complexion in this world that is not represented in a host of ways when you turn on the television. So any ideas that we might have within our heart about perpetuating that myth, and it is a myth, that you can't do something or have something or be something because other people in the world exist of a different complexion than you, you would need to turn on the TV, view those complexions, and then restate a new narrative. It's always easy to assume that other people have an easier path because then that disqualifies me from ever having to do anything to move myself forward. But we are all unique and we're all here for a reason. And God gives us all ideas and suggestions, and it's up to us to decide to work that out in our life or not. Nobody's path is easy. No one's path is easy. So I want to just relay a story. I came across a blog a number of years ago, and it was about a black woman, and she had a black child, and she sent her daughter to school. Her hair was out, and it was natural, so it was really curly, and it was hot that day. So her daughter, her hair was starting to frizz up, or it was just getting too hot. You know, if you wear your hair in its natural state, it can be like you're wearing a hat. So the little girl asked the teacher, "Can you put my hair up?" Right? She probably saw her friends putting their hair up, and asked her teacher, "Can you put my hair up?" Right? So the teacher just put her hair up, and according to the mother, she did an actual good job. Now I know I've taught myself to do hair as a teenager, and I've done a variety of different textures of hair, and I know that white women don't usually jump. Oh, the teacher was white, by the way. White people don't usually jump at trying to do black hair because they don't understand black hair. That's how they feel. And so I mean, I've actually guided like a white woman to do my hair because I had confidence in her skills that she didn't have, and she actually did a good job. So, you know, my point is they ain't really trying to like do our hair like that. So, but this black mom felt offended. And interestingly, in her blog, she said that she understood that the teacher didn't do anything wrong. Her daughter asked her, and she also did a nice job on her daughter's hair. To me, that means that she's used to either doing black hair or bulky, thick hair or curly hair. She's used to that bulk because it's not, you know, if your hair is straight, you may not be used to the bulkiness unless you yourself, because white people do have bulky, curly hair too. So my guess is that, and I've had experiences with that, like doing my daughter's hair, my hair. I know that if they're white and they do their hair nice and their hair is big and bulky, most likely they can do my hair. So anyway, the point is, black mom had a hard time letting that go. She wanted to, you know, in her blog, she was like, I know I'm wrong for this, but I just had a feeling that she wanted to get her hands. I just knew she wanted to get her hands in some black hair. No, they ain't trying to get their hands in no black hair because they don't understand it like that. I'm just telling you. But the point is, you got to learn how to let that stuff go. We have a deep-seated fear of being rejected and shame when it comes to what we look like, when it comes to our noses, when it comes to our hair, when it comes to our complexion. And that fear, you know, we're entitled to have that fear as far as I'm concerned because of the path between the blacks and the whites in this country has been quite tumultuous, to say the least. But the process of healing, it's up to us. So the reason I relay the story is because this mom did acknowledge that the teacher did a good job, didn't do anything wrong, and there was no other issue but for the fact that black mom felt uncomfortable or offended because white teacher, or who she thought was white, she may not have known her nationality, to be honest with you, but did her daughter's hair, and it did a nice job, she admitted, but she just didn't like the fact that a white woman was doing her daughter's hair. That's the kind of thing that it is very sensitive, but we have to learn how to let that kind of stuff go. In other words, there's nothing wrong that was done in that instance, but because we're carrying so much trauma, not only from what we've seen in our lives in the United States, but from generations past, listening to stories from our parents and grandparents about segregation and about slavery, it can be painful to process, and it causes discomfort for both blacks and whites, by the way, but this video is specifically for black people in healing racial trauma, and in that it's up to us. So on the matter of habits, this is what I wanted to discuss today. How do we let go of our habits when it comes to distrusting white people and not feeling uncomfortable? So one of the things that I want to touch on is the habit of feeling insecure about our looks. I remember seeing a story in Africa or something, and they met like a white person for the first time, and they were like, "What is this creature? Where is your melanin? Where they were curious about the skin and curious about the hair, and it was odd because they had never seen a white person before. It is natural for someone that has only exclusively been in their culture environment to not know about another culture, and if you're open-hearted, to be curious. That's a natural and normal thing that anybody would feel. So when a white person, for example, wants to touch your hair or your skin, it's not always because they hate you. I mean, think about it. When you hate something, you don't usually go toward that thing. If you hate snakes, you're like, "Oh, I hate snakes. Here, let me see if I can pet it." You don't really, people do that because they're curious. I repeat, people do that because they're curious. They don't do it because they hate you. If they hated you, they would go in the opposite direction. So, but it is hard to process. Like, I know the stories. I study history. I study my history. I study all history, but I love my history and in this country. And, I certainly get it, the difficulties that were there. But, and so this path is not, it's not going to be an easy path. But just like if you're going to heal yourself from depression, it's a process. It's going to be the same thing with healing from racial trauma. And it's not something that we need to involve white people in at all, because they have their own traumas to heal. In the future, I'm going to discuss that further, because I think it's important to bring a more holistic framework into race and why it works, why it was invented, and also why it works. But so it's not going to be easy. But I know it will be worthwhile, because I have gone on that path some years back, and I've never looked back. My backstory is I grew up in a town in North Jersey where it was very diverse. I mean, vastly diverse. People from all over. It was what they call a melting pot, and we were very close to Manhattan. So imagine like Manhattan, but not that. And so I grew up with having friends of a variety of cultures, and I found that to be quite normal, because when you're growing up, that's just normal. And then I have learned that that's part of where I've learned to just that we are all the same at our core. But I also started looking at race and ethnicity during that period of time, because I believed in race because I was always told there are black people and there are white people. But I was like, well, then where the Arabic people go? Because they look like me. Some of them are really dark, like my complexion, and they're not black. So where do they go? Where do other cultures like Italian people go? Because they're all over the gamut with their hair and their features and their complex. I had a hard time. And then I also noticed a difference between white people from other countries versus the white people from this country. So back then there was only 4 categories of races, and I would always look this information up. And we had encyclopedias back then; we didn't have the internet yet. And I just could never understand where all these people were going to fit. You just couldn't fit the people into those 4 boxes. It was Caucasoid, Negroid, Mongoloid, which was the Asian one, and Native American. And when you're in a melting pot, you're going to find people from all over the world. They're just simply not going to fit in neat packages like that, because each of those categories had a list of features. And those features are what defined your category. And it wasn't until a very long. So anyway, that perplexed me for a very long time. And it wasn't until I got much older and was able to do more research and discover the white slaves that were in this country, and that people could just change their racial identity, like authorities would change their racial identity at will, at their convenience. So in other words, oh, you were black, but it doesn't suit us in this moment, so now we'll just categorize you as white. So I thought that was odd, and I also realized, okay, then this whole concept of race is just total BS, and then it made more sense to me. But anyway, the point is, it is a path of learning and discovery that is important that we take this journey in order to heal. So don't necessarily expect it to be easy, but it's rewarding. I have found it to be very rewarding, being able to be liberated from needing to fit into any boxes or to please anyone whatsoever. So I just want to leave this video, or finish up this video with a phrase that I have been working with for the past few years. And it goes like this: change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. Okay? And when we're about our day and we start to come across something, and we start to, let's say you go to work and somebody rubs you the wrong way or something, if you're the kind of person that says, it's because I'm black, stop for a moment and start to think, maybe it's not because you're black, maybe it's for something else, but maybe because I'm black is so ingrained in our minds that it's become a habit. And so all our identity is just wrapped up in being a black spot, and we forget that we're also a human being who's not perfect, which means there could be another reason why someone said something wrong to you or did something wrong to you or whatever. It's not always for the reason of being black. Those are the kinds of things that we need to start paying attention to, because it keeps perpetuating this belief in our mind that everything bad happens because I'm black, which is not true. So that's a habit of thinking that doesn't serve us. So just be aware of that and things like that in the coming days. And then just remind yourself, you know what? Even if I am black, I don't know why they're doing that, but maybe they're not having a good day, and that's their issue. I don't care. I'm not on this planet to please them or anybody, right? I'm on this planet to please myself and to have fun. And anybody that doesn't like it for any reason, sucks to be them. Keep that energy over there, okay? So just remember, change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. Have a good week.